Hello and welcome to the CNBC Africa special. I'm Nozi Pombanjwa. It is such a pleasure and such a privilege today that we're sitting down with the founder of Africa Fashion International and the co-founder and deputy chairperson of the Motsepe Foundation. This is a leader, a philanthropist, a businesswoman that really needs no introduction, not only in South Africa, but across the continent. We're sitting down with Dr. Precious Motsepe. Lovely to meet you. Thank you for making time for us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, I mean, oftentimes when I have to read a long title like this, it also always gives away that the person is doing so much within their time. But maybe let's start off with your philanthropic work. I often look at the landscape of philanthropy, and I even test my own mental models and often realize that we have this way of conjuring up men who are the world's philanthropists. But you sit here today as an outlier to that mental model and that view. What are your views on what philanthropy looks like in South Africa?
Well, firstly, let me say that as South Africans and as African people, we're very giving by nature. You know, there's this term that we have coined in South Africa of Ubuntu, and I think it applies anywhere on the continent. So it is a different form of giving. In my mind, you know, there is the charitable form of giving, which is what most people do. And this is, I can safely say, why I'm sitting here also, because I've been a beneficiary of other people giving during my school years. And then there is another form of giving, which is much more focused. It is very systematic. It is strategic. It is sustainable, and it has a huge impact. And that's what we normally talk about as philanthropy. So your question on the place of women in philanthropy, I think if you look again on the African continent, most people that are in the social development space, it could be you know, at small scale, is women. They are the ones who look after families, run, you know,
take multiple children to school.
Correct,
right?
correct. Whether it's health or education, community building, it's usually women who are looking after such developmental issues. On the philanthropic side, where now we're talking philanthropy at a large scale, I do see a lot of women as well. For instance, I belong to, or myself and my husband, we started, you know, the Motsepe Foundation together. We started actually, I would say, at home on our dining room table, just giving out checks, which was charitable. And then we decided to become mainstream and be strategic about our investment into development. So after that, we joined, of course, the Giving Pledge, as you would know, which is a global organization of families that have decided to donate half their wealth to needy families or needy communities in several countries. And amongst these, it's usually husband and wife and their children. So when we have meetings, I do come across a lot of women who are philanthropists in their own right within the family. And often you'll find that either the husband or the wife has started businesses, and then the philanthropic side is looked after by the wife or the kids, and they drive the philanthropic side of the family. So, I mean, I've met women like Diane van Forstenberg, who's part of the Giving Pledge. On the continent, there's Tsitsi and Strive Masiwa, who are a couple that is in philanthropy. We have the Pick and Pay family, where Mrs. Ackerman is leading on the philanthropic side. Wendy Applebaum, I can mention quite a few on the continent. And then, of course, we have decided as a group of women philanthropists, because we bump into each other at World Economic Forum meetings or during the Giving Pledge meetings, we decided we seem to have a lot in common. That as women who are interested in driving girls and women's issues throughout the world. So we started, or I have been asked to now chair an organization called the Mavericks. It was started by Melinda Gates and the Princess of Norway, together with an organization from the States that supports health throughout the continent and globally. So this is a group of women who have decided they have the means to drive philanthropy, and they want to be strategic about where they invest, amongst women and girls.
And I don't doubt that the issues are far-ranging, because the issues that do plague women and girls are far-ranging. In light of this, what do you think are the priorities that we need to get right as a society if we are actually going to be able to change the experience of what it means to be a girl child and the experience of what it means to be a young woman in corporate and in other spaces? What are the big issues?
I think for me, the biggest thing we can do to advance, the girl, children, and women is education. It is we can't state this enough. It is important, as Madiba said. It is the key that opens many doors, and it does. You and I sit here because we benefited from good quality education. So for me, education is important, and that is why the Motsepe Foundation focuses on taking young boys and girls to university to study in the STEM fields. We've committed more than 2,000 bursaries to date for students to study in STEM fields. And I consciously make sure that 50% of those are girls.
Yeah.
Currently, we're running at about 42%, but we're driving ourselves to ensure that 50% and above are girls. Why is this important? I think for young girls and women, if they are to advance, particularly in the workplace, we need to be looking at sectors where they can excel. For me, the science and technology sectors are the sectors that have been shown in business to be growing. So these are sectors that will offer secure employment for young, for our youth, of course, but particularly for young women, because technology doesn't. You don't need any muscle power. Now all of a sudden it's about your brain, your creativity. That's what you bring to the workplace.
You actually remind me of an analogy that I just was reading about the other day, that oftentimes when we think of pilots, we conjure up the picture of men, and we actually forget that you don't need muscles to fly a plane. You just need a brain, right?
Absolutely.
And the minute young girls actually connect with those analogies, they begin to see themselves in roles within the STEM space that maybe before that they probably wouldn't have be able to conjure up for themselves.
No, absolutely. I mean, we've been going around the country now talking to secondary school children, from grade 8, about considering fields in STEM. And we bring with us young women in adversity who are studying engineering, mathematics, and we bring people that are already working in these fields, who are already engineers themselves, to come and talk to these young people. I think the results have been astounding. It's just been incredible to see how these young girls for the first time get to understand that, to be a civil engineer doesn't really mean you're going to be a mechanic. Mechanical engineering, you're not going to be fixing cars. It's very exciting, and particularly now, I think we need to prepare our youth and women for the 4th Industrial Revolution.
We're about to wrap the conversation, but I want to almost circle back to something that you said that stuck in my heart as you said it. You said, as I sit here today, there are many other people and women who've invested in me as well.
Correct.
And I'd love for you to maybe even share maybe just one story of somebody who's done something for you that has been destiny defining for you. Oftentimes when we speak to leaders like yourself, we almost forget that you too were once young, that you too might once have needed a hand up at some point. And I get the sense that this is a story that is going to resonate with a lot of our viewers.
Wow.
Anything that comes to mind?
It still feels so, giving me goosebumps when I talk about the help I received personally. It was a young girl, probably 8 years old, or maybe later grade 8, let me say, And I come from a family of 5 kids, and my parents were professionals, not too poor and not rich enough.
Yes.
You know, so
in the middle there.
in the middle. Happy household. My mom was a nursing sister, and my dad was a teacher, and left to go into the business world. But because of the size of the family and because of the needs and their prioritizing of education and health, you know, there was a period when cash flow was tight, you know, and I couldn't go back to school in time. So beginning of the year, there was no money to send me to school. So I had to stay at home to probably wait and let my sisters go to school. And a local doctor, and a lot of people might know him, Dr. Abbat Asfat. He came to my rescue and borrowed my parents. It was very little money back then.
But lots of value.
Lots of value, if I can repeat, that's how I get to sit here. And I was able to go buy school uniform and take a train to school. I was at a boarding school at that time. And then catch up because I was now so late in starting school. But when I think about that, I feel there's a lot of young girls who, faced with a situation like that, are not fortunate to find people to help them, young boys and girls. And it's often those kids that we miss, who, we could have trained to become future leaders. That gets me up, exactly,
yes.
Gets me out of bed every morning.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. And her own personal experience of someone not forgetting about her, ensuring that she didn't fall between the cracks and that she had a chance to go back and join her peers in school, has been a huge motivating force and a big reason why Dr. Precious Motsepe gets up every morning today, continues her work as a philanthropist, continues her work as a leader across the continent, and continues her work as a business leader. It's been an absolute pleasure sitting down and having a chat with her and really understanding the intricacies of philanthropy and the intricacies of fashion and development and how they come together to create magic in Africa. Thank you very much for making the time to join us. I'm Motsepe.